Before a person becomes unshakable, they must first understand what shakes them. Most people drift through life like ships without a rudder, moved not by purpose, but by pressure, not by intention, but by impulse. But the moment you decide to anchor your mind to a set of principles, you stop being tossed by the storms of circumstance, and you start steering your own destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be at this moment, whether you're driving along a quiet road, sitting by a window, or standing at the crossroads of a new chapter, I'd like to speak to you today about a simple yet profound idea: the 7 rules that will make you unshakable. You see, throughout history, the strongest individuals were never the loudest, nor the ones with the most resources. They were the ones who built themselves from the inside out. They were anchored in principles so firm that no storm, no criticism, and no temporary setback could move them. And so I offer you these 7 rules, timeless in nature, practical in use, and powerful enough to change the very direction of your life. Rule 1: guard your mind. All great change begins within. The thoughts you allow to take residence in your mind eventually become the architecture of your life. Feed it with strength and you become strong. Feed it with fear and you become fragile. Rule 2: know exactly what you want. Most people fail not because they lack the ability, but because they lack the clarity. A person with a clear aim becomes like an arrow, straight, direct, and impossible to derail. Decide to claim it. Rule 30: discipline your daily actions. The small choices we make each day determine the quality of our future. Discipline is not punishment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It is the promise you keep to yourself, on the days you feel inspired, and more importantly, on the days you don't. Rule 4: choose your environment wisely. You become like the people you spend your time with. Surround yourself with complainers, you will complain. Surround yourself with achievers, dreamers, and builders, you will begin to construct a life worth living. Rule 5: master your emotions. The world doesn't shake you, your reactions to it do. The person who learns to remain calm in chaos possesses a secret advantage over 99% of people. Emotional mastery is a superpower available to anyone who seeks it. Rule 6: take consistent, courageous action. Every step you take strengthens your foundation. Action builds certainty, action builds momentum. And action, persistent, deliberate action, builds a version of you that becomes impossible to shake. Rule 7: hold yourself to higher standards. Your standards form the ceiling or the floor of your life. When you raise them, everything else in your life rises to meet them. Your habits, your relationships, your success, they all begin aligning with the person you choose to become. Most people pass through their entire lives without fully realizing its influence. Your mindset determines the stability of your life. It is not the conditions around you, nor the events that unfold outside your command, that dictate your direction. It is the quiet, unseen activity within your own mind. The mind is the control room of destiny, the silent governor of every decision, habit, and action. If a person were to trace the cause of every victory and every defeat, they would almost always arrive at the same source: their pattern of thinking. Throughout history, people from every background have risen from obscurity to excellence not because they possessed special advantages, but because they cultivated a mindset that refused to be defeated. It was their inner dialogue, their self-belief, and their ability to interpret circumstances with clarity rather than panic that set them apart. When the mind is calm, the path becomes visible. When the mind is confident, doubt weakens. When the mind is directed toward purpose, distractions lose their pull. But when the mind is confused, fearful, or filled with conflicting thoughts, even the strongest person becomes fragile. You see, a person can only stand as tall as their thoughts allow. A weak mindset crumbles under pressure, while a strong one grows stronger because of it. Think of a tree with deep roots. It does not avoid the wind, but it is prepared for it. So too must your mind develop roots. These roots are built from the ideas you feed yourself daily, the principles you live by, and the boundaries you set for the world around you. If you nourish your mind with doubt, criticism, and negativity, it becomes malnourished and weak. But if you fill it with vision, learning, gratitude, and self-respect, it gains the strength to remain steady, even when the ground beneath you shifts. Your mindset is also deeply influenced by what you permit to enter it. The world is constantly offering noise, opinions, fears, expectations, worries. If you accept all of these without discrimination, your mind becomes as turbulent as the world that supplies them. But the individual who chooses carefully what thoughts to welcome creates an inner sanctuary, a place where clarity resides. This person becomes difficult to disturb because their peace is self-created, not borrowed from circumstances. Another important aspect of mindset is the beliefs you hold about yourself. If you believe you are capable, you act accordingly. If you believe you are limited, you unconsciously sabotage your efforts. The mind always seeks to prove itself right. This is why individuals who carry a sense of inner worth tend to rise to the occasion, while those who hold doubt crumble before the challenge even begins. The strongest people you've ever heard of were not unshakable by accident. They trained their minds to respond to adversity with composure rather than collapse. And then there is the quiet discipline of directing your thoughts. Most people let their minds wander like leaves in the wind, drifting from fear to worry, from distraction to regret. But the person who understands the power of mindset learns to choose their thoughts as deliberately as they choose their actions. They replace fear with preparation, worry with faith, and hesitation with movement. They become masters of their inner world, and in doing so, they gain mastery over their outer world as well. Clarity is one of the greatest forces a human being can possess, yet it is also one of the rarest. Most individuals do not fail because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity. They fail because they never decide with absolute certainty what they want their lives to stand for. When a person moves without direction, the world becomes a confusing landscape of possibilities, each pulling them in a different direction, none strong enough to hold their commitment. But the moment they define firmly and without hesitation what they want, the fog begins to lift. Life, which once seemed scattered and overwhelming, begins to narrow itself into a single, purposeful path. This clarity becomes a compass, a guiding light, a quiet but persistent insistence that keeps them aligned with their true purpose. Knowing exactly what you want transforms you from a wanderer into a creator. It gives weight to your steps, intention to your actions, and meaning to your struggles. A person with clarity does not drift, they move. They do not waste energy on distractions, they conserve it for the work that truly matters. They do not crumble when challenged, they recognize the challenge as part of the road they chose. When the mind is fixed on a definite objective, it becomes astonishingly resilient. Obstacles become temporary, delays become instructive, and failures become stepping stones rather than stopping points. But clarity requires honesty, the kind of honesty that many people avoid. It means asking yourself what you truly desire, not what others expect of you, not what society suggests, not what seems safe and comfortable. It asks you to confront the deeper longing within your heart, the vision you may have ignored for years because it felt too bold, too risky, too uncommon. Yet every great achievement began with such a desire. The individuals who shaped the world were not guided by vague wishes. They were moved by a specific goal so compelling that it pulled them forward even when circumstances pushed back. Once you know what you want, your mind begins to reorganize itself around that desire. You become aware of opportunities that once went unnoticed. You recognize patterns that support your progress. You feel a sense of focus that steadies you even when uncertainty surrounds you. This is not magic, it is the natural power of a directed mind. A mind without direction wanders, but a mind with a goal becomes precise. It filters, prioritizes, and chooses with intention. It stops reacting and begins leading. Clarity also creates confidence, not the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet certainty that comes from knowing where you are going. When you know your destination, you no longer fear the detours. You understand that the road may twist, but the direction remains unchanged. You make decisions more easily because your standard becomes simple. Does this bring me closer to my goal or move me further away? With such clarity, hesitation loses its grip and doubt finds no home. To know exactly what you want is to take command of your life. It frees you from confusion, strengthens your resolve, and awakens a sense of purpose that makes every step meaningful. It is the first act of creation in the life you wish to build. Discipline is the quiet architect behind every form of success, yet it rarely announces itself with fanfare. It works in silence, shaping a person's character one choice, one habit, one decision at a time. While talent may open a door or two, and luck may illuminate a path briefly, it is discipline that carries a person through every season of life. Through the bright days when motivation is high and through the darker days when enthusiasm fades. Most people misunderstand discipline. They see it as restriction, as a denial of pleasure, as a burden placed on their shoulders. But discipline is, in truth, the greatest expression of self-respect. It is the evidence that you believe your future is worthy of consistency, effort, and unwavering attention. The disciplined individual does not act according to mood, because they understand how unreliable moods can be. Instead, they act according to commitment. They know that progress is rarely dramatic. It is a gradual unfolding, a quiet accumulation of actions that over time builds a foundation so strong that even the unexpected storms of life cannot shake it. Discipline is the bridge between intention and reality. It is the mechanism that takes a vague desire and turns it into a practiced behavior, until the behavior becomes a part of your identity. There is a certain dignity in waking up each day and choosing the action that aligns with your highest purpose, especially when the easier choice calls your name. Greatness is not built in grand gestures but in small, repeated acts. The world celebrates outcomes, but discipline celebrates process. And the process is where a person is truly formed. It is where you learn patience, resilience, and the remarkable ability to continue even when no applause is given. Discipline teaches you that the reward is not merely in reaching the destination, but in becoming the kind of person who can reach it. The remarkable thing about discipline is that it gains momentum. The first few days feel heavy, the first few choices feel deliberate and difficult. But with every repetition, the mind becomes clearer, the habits become easier, and the path becomes more defined. Discipline compounds. Each act reinforces the belief that you are capable, dependable, and worthy of the goals you pursue. This quiet reinforcement creates a powerful inner stability. You become less affected by distractions, less influenced by temptation, and far more anchored in what truly matters to you. Many people wait for motivation to carry them forward, but motivation is a fleeting companion. It visits when the weather is fair, but it abandons ship at the first sign of resistance. Discipline, however, stays aboard. It does not depend on circumstances, it does not respond to convenience. It is a decision you make once and remake daily. And in that daily remaking, you develop a strength that no external force can give you and no hardship can take away. Discipline is the invisible force that turns dreams into plans, plans into actions, and actions into achievements. It is the quiet power that transforms ordinary individuals into extraordinary ones. It is the choice to honor your future rather than indulge in momentary comfort. It is the difference between living a life of reaction and living a life of intention. With discipline, you become the creator of your life rather than the observer. Environment is a silent sculptor, shaping a person's destiny with hands so gentle that most never notice the influence until years have passed. We often imagine ourselves as independent thinkers, unaffected by what surrounds us, guided solely by our own choices. Yet if we look closely, at the tone of our thoughts, at the quality of our habits, at the standards we accept, we discover that much of who we have become is a reflection of the environment we have allowed ourselves to inhabit. A person does not rise in isolation, nor do they fall alone. They are lifted, influenced, molded, and redirected by the people, the atmosphere, and the daily conditions in which they place themselves. Your environment is not simply a physical space, it is the energy, the conversation, the expectations, and the beliefs circulating around you. Spend enough time in a room filled with doubt, and soon you begin to question your own abilities. Surround yourself with individuals who complain, and without noticing you join the chorus. Live among people who accept mediocrity, and excellence begins to feel excessive or unnecessary. But place yourself among those who strive, who challenge themselves, who hold ambition not as a dream but as a responsibility, and your standards rise. You begin to think differently, act differently, expect more of yourself. Your inner world expands to match the outer one. A strong environment reinforces strong behavior. It reminds you of who you want to become and gently pulls you back when you drift. You may have noticed that certain people bring out your best. Your focus sharpens, your confidence rises, your sense of possibility widens. This is no accident. Their presence, their attitude, their pursuit of something greater impacts you. And just as light strengthens vision, the company of such individuals strengthens your character. In the same way, an uninspiring environment dulls the senses, it makes bold goals seem unnecessary and perseverance feel unreasonable. Over time, it weakens not just your ambition but your belief in what you can accomplish. The truth is, you cannot consistently outperform the environment that surrounds you. If you want to become unshakable, you must choose surroundings that support your growth, challenge your complacency, and elevate your thinking. This does not mean cutting people out of your life harshly or dramatically. It means becoming intentional about who and what influences you. Instead of drifting into environments by habit or convenience, you select them according to the future you wish to build. You choose people who speak of ideas rather than constantly pointing out limitations. You choose spaces that invite focus rather than distraction. You choose routines, conversations, and atmospheres that align with your highest aspirations. An environment aligned with your goals acts as a constant reminder of what you are capable of. It becomes a quiet coach, nudging you forward. It holds you accountable without saying a word. And perhaps most importantly, it helps you become resilient. For when your surroundings reinforce your purpose, the world's noise loses much of its power. You begin to grow not by force, but by influence, not by struggle alone, but by alignment. A person who carefully selects their environment chooses the conditions of their future. They refuse to leave their growth to chance. They understand that to rise consistently, they must surround themselves with what pulls them upward. Emotional mastery is one of the rarest but most powerful abilities a person can develop. It is not the absence of emotion, nor is it the cold suppression of feeling. Rather, it is the calm awareness that allows you to respond to life instead of react to it. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions. They rise when praise lifts them, they fall when criticism touches them, they freeze when fear visits them. Their entire direction changes with every emotional breeze. But the individual who learns to steady the inner world becomes almost untouchable. They move through life with a quiet confidence that others can sense but seldom understand. Their power does not come from resistance to emotion but from their ability to direct it rather than be directed by it. You see, the world itself is not chaotic, it is our emotional interpretation of events that makes it so. Two people can experience the same setback, yet one collapses under the weight of discouragement while the other grows stronger. The difference is not in the event, it is in the emotional meaning assigned to it. Emotional mastery allows you to assign meaning intentionally. It gives you the space between what happens and how you choose to respond. In that space lies your strength. Most people never claim that strength because they never pause long enough to recognize it exists. Emotions are like weather patterns, temporary, shifting, sometimes turbulent, but always passing. When a person believes their emotions are permanent, they give away their stability. They tie their confidence to passing storms. But the unshakable person learns to stand still inside themselves. They feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and then choose the response that serves them rather than surrendering to impulse. In doing so, they maintain their direction even when the winds of circumstance shift around them. Mastering your emotions does not mean you avoid difficulty. It means you approach difficulty with a clear mind. The angry person speaks before thinking and regrets it later. The fearful person sees danger where none exists and stops themselves before the world even has a chance to challenge them. But the person who has developed emotional steadiness sees with a sharper lens. They view events as they are, not inflated by fear, not distorted by frustration, not colored by doubt. This clarity is a form of intelligence that cannot be measured but can always be felt. There is deep strength in choosing calm. Calm is not weakness, it is control. Calm is not passivity, it is preparation. It is the recognition that a composed mind performs better, thinks better, decides better. A person ruled by emotion is easily shaken because their center is external. They rely on circumstances to feel secure. But when your emotional world is governed from within, you no longer depend on the world cooperating with your desires. You carry your steadiness with you. Emotional mastery is learned through observation. Watch your reactions, notice your triggers, listen to the language you use when under stress. The more aware you become, the more influence you gain. Little by little, the emotional storms that once overwhelmed you begin to lose their force. You begin to respond with intention rather than instinct. You begin to rise above situations that once pulled you down. And eventually, your composure becomes unbreakable. Not because life stops challenging you, but because challenges lose their ability to control you. Action is the great separator in life. While most people wait for the perfect moment, the ideal circumstance, or a surge of motivation to begin, the individuals who change their lives understand a simple truth: movement creates momentum. They do not wait for inspiration to strike, they create it by taking the first step and then the next. Consistent, courageous action is not loud, dramatic, or flamboyant. It is often quiet, steady, almost ordinary. Yet within that ordinariness lies extraordinary power. Every small effort compounds. Every movement forward strengthens the mind, builds confidence, and reshapes identity. People often imagine that confidence is something they must possess before they act, when in truth, confidence is the reward for taking action, not the prerequisite. The moment you move toward a goal, no matter how small the step, you send a message to your mind: I am capable, I am willing, I am in control. That message grows louder with repetition. Soon, what once seemed uncertain becomes familiar. What once felt intimidating becomes manageable. The very act of action rewrites the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you can accomplish. Courageous action does not mean bold leaps every day. It can be the simple commitment to improve one small area of your life, to make one more call, to study one more chapter, to walk one more mile. It means doing what needs to be done even when enthusiasm fades and the path feels longer than expected. The world rewards consistency far more than intensity. Many people start strong but stop too soon. They confuse effort with endurance. But those who understand the value of repeated action become unstoppable. Each day they strengthen the habit of showing up, and showing up is the most reliable predictor of success in any endeavor. There will always be reasons to hesitate. The mind is skilled at presenting caution disguised as logic. But most hesitation is nothing more than the fear of the unknown trying to keep you where you are. When you act despite that fear, you weaken its influence. You prove to yourself that you can move forward even when conditions are imperfect. And with each action, the unknown becomes known, the uncertain becomes clear, and the intimidating becomes routine. Consistent action gradually shifts the terrain of your life. It transforms opportunity from something you hope to find into something you create. Over time, you become a person who trusts your ability to figure things out, no matter the challenge. You stop waiting for life to present the right conditions and start shaping the conditions yourself. Action builds belief, and belief makes you unshakable. Standards are the invisible lines that determine how far a person rises and how low they are willing to fall. They are not announced with pride, nor displayed for the world to see, yet they govern every choice, every habit, every response to challenge. A person's life does not move according to their desires, but according to the standards they accept. When your standards are low, life becomes a negotiation of excuses. But when your standards are high, genuinely high, your life begins to ascend almost automatically. You act differently, think differently, expect differently. You refuse to settle for what is convenient because convenience no longer matches who you believe yourself to be. Most people never question their standards. They inherit them from their environment, their upbringing, or their past experiences. They accept behaviors, routines, and outcomes simply because they've lived with them for so long they feel normal. But normal is not the same as necessary, and familiarity is not the same as destiny. The moment a person raises their standards, truly raises them, their world begins to shift. They stop tolerating habits that waste their potential. They stop accepting relationships that drain their spirit. They stop allowing fear to dictate what they attempt. It is in this refusal, this calm, steady refusal, that strength is born. A person with high standards does not perform remarkable actions from time to time. They perform simple actions consistently at a remarkable level. They honor their word not because it is heroic, but because it aligns with who they choose to be. They put forth effort even when no one is watching, because their standard is not dependent on attention or recognition. Their discipline, their focus, their integrity, these are not occasional efforts but daily expectations. And over time, these expectations shape a character that becomes unshakable. When you raise your standards, you also raise your threshold for discomfort. You become willing to endure what others avoid. You embrace challenges others step away from. You pursue mastery where others settle for adequacy. This willingness creates an inner reservoir of resilience. You no longer break under pressure because pressure has become part of your training. You no longer fear difficulty because difficulty has become familiar terrain. Your standards forge you into someone who is not easily swayed by temptation or defeated by setback. Raising your standards is not a single moment of decision. It is a continuous reaffirmation of the person you aspire to be. Each day you choose again. You choose to speak with integrity. You choose to work with focus. You choose to act with courage. You choose not to lower yourself to the level of convenience or emotional impulse. And with every choice, your identity strengthens. You begin to see yourself as capable, dependable, and worthy of the life you envision. Your standards are the quiet blueprint of your destiny. They determine the height of your success and the stability of your character. The higher you set them, the stronger you become. Faith is the unseen force that steadies a person when the world tries to pull them in 100 different directions. It is not blind optimism, nor is it the denial of difficulty. It is the quiet conviction that regardless of how the journey twists or how long the road appears, you will reach the place you are meant to go. A person with faith walks differently. They stand taller, speak with greater certainty, and endure hardship with an inner calm that confuses those who have never built such belief within themselves. It is this belief, this unwavering trust in one's direction, that transforms an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Most people misunderstand faith. They wait for proof before they believe. They wait for circumstances to align perfectly before they commit. But life does not work that way. Progress arrives after belief, not before it. Every great invention, every business, every achievement began in the mind of a person who believed in it long before others saw any possibility. Faith is the blueprint of all creation. It is the willingness to act while the outcome is still invisible. Without it, even the smallest challenge can become a reason to quit. But with it, even the greatest obstacle becomes another step on a much larger climb. Faith also strengthens the mind against doubt. Doubt will visit, as it always does. It whispers of risk, of uncertainty, of failure. It magnifies delays and exaggerates setbacks. But when you hold faith, those whispers lose their power. You begin to understand that obstacles are not signs to stop but signals to grow. You recognize that delay is not denial. You see that failure is not final but formative. Faith allows you to interpret challenges in a way that fuels progress rather than discourages it. It gives you the emotional endurance to continue long after others would have stopped. There is a remarkable steadiness that comes from believing in yourself and in the path you have chosen. Faith aligns your thoughts with possibility. It calms the anxious mind. It brings order to chaos. When others panic, you adjust. When others give up, you analyze. When others break under pressure, you strengthen your resolve. This calm strength does not come from arrogance. It comes from trust. Trust in your preparation, trust in your purpose, and trust in the unfolding of your journey. A person with faith becomes a stabilizing force in an unstable world. They no longer seek constant reassurance because the reassurance comes from within. They walk into each day with a sense of certainty that does not depend on circumstances cooperating. This certainty becomes a habit, and that habit becomes character. Over time, it shapes a mind that is nearly impossible to shake. For when you truly believe in where you are going, nothing can keep you from getting there except the decision to stop. Faith ensures you never make that decision. Gratitude is one of the most stabilizing forces a person can cultivate, yet it is often misunderstood as something soft, sentimental, or reserved only for peaceful moments. In truth, gratitude is strength. It is a lens through which life becomes clearer, calmer, and far more purposeful. It redirects the mind from what is missing to what is present, from what is uncertain to what is already working, from what has gone wrong to what can still be made right. A grateful mind is not easily shaken because it is anchored in abundance rather than lack. It sees possibility where others see limitation, and opportunity where others see inconvenience. Most people allow their emotions to rise and fall with circumstances. If the day goes well, they feel well. If the day turns difficult, their entire outlook collapses with it. Gratitude breaks this cycle. It teaches the individual to remain steady regardless of external conditions. It reminds them that even in challenge, something valuable remains: an insight, a lesson, a moment of clarity, a chance for resilience. When you practice gratitude, you strengthen your ability to remain centered even in the face of turmoil. You begin to recognize that life provides both gifts and guidance, and both are equally important. Gratitude also sharpens perception. A person who appreciates what they have tends to take better care of it. They notice opportunities sooner because their eyes are trained on what is working rather than what is failing. They invest more fully in their relationships, their work, and their personal growth because they do not take these things for granted. This attentive awareness becomes an advantage. It allows you to move through life with greater presence, greater intention, and greater appreciation for the moments others rush past without noticing. Moreover, gratitude cultivates emotional balance. It is difficult to feel overwhelmed by fear while sincerely appreciating the strength you've gained from past challenges. It is difficult to sink into frustration when acknowledging the progress you've already made. Gratitude gently interrupts destructive patterns of thought and replaces them with clarity. It brings the mind back to solid ground, preventing it from spiraling into worst-case scenarios. This grounding effect becomes a form of emotional armor. Trouble may knock at the door, but it does not easily find its way inside. There is also a quiet confidence that grows from grateful living. You begin to trust the journey more deeply because you see how far you've already come. You realize that even the difficult moments served a purpose, shaping you into someone more capable and more prepared for what lies ahead. This trust removes the desperation that often accompanies ambition. You pursue your goals with determination, yes, but also with calm assurance. You work not from fear of losing everything, but from appreciation for everything you already carry. Gratitude turns the mind into a place of strength. It protects you from becoming reactive, bitter, or discouraged. It keeps you grounded, steady, and aware of the richness that exists even in moments of uncertainty. A grateful person cannot be easily shaken because their peace is not built on perfection. It is built on perspective. Commitment is the quiet engine that transforms thought into reality. It is not a fleeting enthusiasm that comes and goes with moods, nor is it the mere expression of desire or intention. True commitment is a decision that binds the mind, heart, and actions to a course of purpose, regardless of obstacles, delays, or doubts. It is the unspoken promise you make to yourself that no matter the difficulty, you will not abandon the direction you have chosen. Many people drift through life because they never make this decision. They wish, they hope, they plan, but they do not commit. And without commitment, even the clearest vision remains a dream, unfulfilled and distant. Commitment creates momentum in ways that talent alone cannot. A person may possess extraordinary skills, but without steadfast commitment, those skills remain dormant. Conversely, a person of modest ability, armed with unwavering commitment, can achieve what seems impossible. Commitment turns a single choice into repeated action, and repeated action into habit. It turns the ordinary day into a series of purposeful steps, each carrying the individual closer to the life they envision. Over time, the accumulation of these committed steps creates results that astonish those who assume that luck or talent alone determine success. The power of commitment also lies in its ability to strengthen character. When you decide to see something through, no matter the setbacks, you train the mind to resist distraction, doubt, and despair. You learn endurance, you learn patience. You learn the subtle art of keeping your focus fixed even when the world conspires to pull you away. Commitment teaches you that results are rarely instantaneous, but they are inevitable when persistence is applied consistently. It transforms resistance into fuel and challenge into instruction. Commitment also clarifies decision-making. When you are truly committed, every choice is filtered through the lens of your objective. You no longer waste energy on options that do not serve your ultimate purpose. Every conversation, every action, every plan is aligned. This alignment creates efficiency, confidence, and clarity, allowing you to move forward without hesitation. There is no confusion about whether to act because the path is determined by your dedication. Furthermore, commitment breeds resilience. Life will present setbacks, disappointments, and failures, as it does for everyone. But a committed individual interprets these not as signals to retreat, but as opportunities to adjust, learn, and persist. Commitment is the shield that prevents temporary defeat from becoming permanent. It transforms uncertainty into a challenge that can be met rather than a threat that paralyzes. Commitment is not something that arrives fully formed. It grows through conscious choice, daily reaffirmation, and consistent effort. The moment you decide to dedicate yourself fully to your purpose, the entire landscape of your life begins to change. Your actions gain weight, your decisions gain precision, and your goals draw nearer. This steadfast dedication becomes the defining characteristic of an unshakable life.